It is my great pleasure to introduce our today's speaker. And as we discussed, we are jumping with you from one region to another, but that's what the contemporary world is. So Professor Tom Yoshizaki, or Tomonori Yoshizaki, is a very well-known security expert from Tokyo, who is currently the professor at the Tokyo University of Foreign Studies. He used to work at the Ministry of Defense. He taught for the National Institute for Defense Studies, NATO Defense College, the Self-Defense Forces Staff College of Japan. He is widely published on the issues of the security in the region, but not only in the Asia Pacific, but also about Ukraine, about NATO. So he has very good understanding of what is here in Europe. He used to be visiting scholar at the King's College London, among others, and the Hudson Institute. So we have the person who is really can put Japan into the world context and to tell us about their Japan priorities in terms of the security and a little bit wider for the Asia Pacific, because we are considering Japan as a regional actor, not just a small country with national interest, but covering, especially in terms of security, wider. Also, I would like to welcome several Japanese students from the Tokyo University of Foreign Affairs who are joining us for this session today. So that's why for the program, we will have 1 hour of the lecture from Professor Yoshizaki, after which, as usually, you will be able to ask questions in chat or raising your hand. Yegor is moderating. And feel free, as Professor said, to ask questions to him or to the other Japanese participants as well. So we give you this opportunity to have wider exchange of opinions over here. Not taking any more time, Tom, great thank you for having this time for us. And the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Anna. And hello, good night in Tokyo. And well, the good afternoon in the Ukraine. And thank you very much for having me and us from Tokyo. This is a stimulating experience for us. And let me talk just a little bit about how Hannah and myself get to know each other. We attended the so-called Wilton Park Conference. And the key term is so-called the future war, and also Ukraine resilience. How not only NATO, not only European Union, but also Indo-Pacific partner like Japan can cooperate and help the kind of the back in place and deny any kind of fait accompli. So let me start by sharing the slide. The key topic is about the so-called Indo-Pacific connectivity. Okay, let me start and sharing the slides. Can you see?
Yes.
Okay, and so I will enlarge. Yep, okay. And the peace and conflict in the Indo-Pacific is a title. And Japan's future vision is now being challenged and redesigned. And I'm very happy and excited to learn that your team is coming to Japan. And we are facing a so-called the multiple frontal challenges. And the key word is the Indo-Pacific. Okay, let me start. The redesigning Japan future vision, including my so-called study question or research question is like this. Why did we, that means Japan or Japanese governments, change a strategic narrative? Okay, the key word is the strategic communication and strategic narrative. And it used to be the Asia Pacific. That was the Japanese keyword, used to be. But now changed to the the Indo-Pacific. The United States of America, USA, has a new arrangement of command structure in the Pacific, Indo-PACOM, in Honolulu, meaning that not only there is Asia Pacific, but the Indian Ocean, Pacific Ocean connectivity. So that means American view changed. But please don't forget that Prime Minister Abe, he was assassinated. It was truly a disaster. But he underlined the concept of Indo-Pacific connectivity. So changing the strategic narrative. And why? Because, well, not only the Asian the theater, but not only the Pacific theater, but the Indo-Pacific, meaning that, okay, Africa and the Middle East, some other challenges. So if you are coming to Japan, well, Japan is island nations and small nation compared to continental China or Russia, but we have a connectivity and history of maritime cooperation. So I will share some of the maps later. And for your reference, I published one chapter on the NATO and Japan. And the title of the book is that the impact of the Russo-Ukraine war. And this was released February this year. And along with the partners in Kiev, the Ukraine. And we have almost every month, like today, the web seminar and also presentation from Kiev or Brussels or from Japan, and try to underline the importance. And my chapter was highlighted the NATO's enlargement or NATO support to the Ukraine resilience and where Japan can fit in supporting the so-called Indo-Pacific connectivity. Good news is this is open access. So you can download through the volume, through the net. Well, okay, let me start. And like Hannah introduced my backgrounds, I worked at the Ministry of Defense and the National Institute for Defense Studies, which is called so-called the National Defense Universities of the other countries. But for political reasons, we don't have the war colleges or National Defense University in Tokyo. So I used to be the vice president of the National Institute for Defense Studies, which is a member of the NATO Defense College Consortium in Rome. And I was using a kind of game for simulations, like with the US forces, Australians, and NATO's. And the biggest change ever was Ukraine and Russian aggression invasion to Ukraine. That was so-called the Black Swan situation and the wake-up call. So not only in European theater, not only in Ukraine alone, but it's a global impact. Then I was asked to how we can think this situations. So please have a look at the this map and also layout. I said red team, like Russia and North Korea, allied, and China. They have, okay, highest level of strategic partnership. And the strategic partnership for life, meaning that de facto alliance system, but they don't call it alliances. North Korea or DPRK use the term the alliances, but Russia will never. And China welcome the strategic partnership. And it is simply unfortunate that Ukraine is a kind of the number one target, became number one target. And the thing is, this is a war or armed conflict going on. and how we can stop any kind of the fait accompli by Russia, or how we can support the resilience of Ukraine is not only European issues, but also global impact, meaning that how the NATO, Europe, and also we say Indo-Pacific country like Japan, Korea, and Australia, New Zealand, and some other like-minded partner from ASEAN country can help the sustainability and resilience of Ukraine. This is very important global issues. That's the reason why Japanese government and Japanese society is willing to support this kind of like-minded partners, not only for the Japanese, the narrow-minded, the national interest. No, we have U.S. allies and partners in the Indo-Pacific, and also African countries and Middle East, meaning that the armed conflict can happen in anywhere, anytime, anywhere. Then please have a look at the center, like a Taiwan, Republic of China, and please remember one historical fact. I will go back later, but the Republic of China, Taiwan used to be alliance partners, allied to the United States. But 1971 to Henry Kissinger and the Nixon went to the Beijing and shook hands with the Chinese leadership, and alliance partner changed. That happened in our region, and Taiwan used to be allied partner for Washington, D.C. But now Beijing is a kind of strategic competitor, but as to the government level, diplomatic level, the diplomatic ties with Beijing, not with Taipei. So it happened, alas, half century ago. And that structure still remains the same, but the big change is Chinese military or economic pressure is going on, and also wider. So how we can stop any kind of unilateral change of this kind of landscape is not only the matter of Europe, but also it's a global Indo-Pacific challenge. So I played this game with many policymakers and academics, and try to distill lesson learned, the ongoing conflict, not only in Europe, but also the emerging kind of the fait accompli strategy in our region. So this is a common challenge. Then, this is an offshore picture used and map used by Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Japan, meaning that Indo-Pacific connectivity. And you can see the big two circles. And there used to be the Asia Pacific was the focal one, is a blue one. And the green one is the Indian Oceans. You will see India and also Middle East. And for Japan's, the eastern side of the Africa, like Mombasa in Kenya, and these region and Djibouti will be a gateway for connectivity to the the African country and also Middle East. But please don't forget what's happening in Middle East, Gaza, meaning that maritime connectivity is being challenged, not only by, Russia, not only by Russia alone, but we have so many different the armed conflict happening. So it can hamper the maritime connectivity or kind of political connectivity. So how we can stay connected. And we will say the blue circle and also the blue circle and green circle, and you will see the in the center, okay, red circle, but this is a focal point like the South China Sea or East China Sea. And Japan is situated in the far east. If you see from the European factor, Japan is the far east. But we say that we may be the gateway for, okay, continental Asia or Indo-Pacific. So Indo-Pacific connectivity, meaning that on the right, okay, you see US and also Latin America from below, and also the Pacific Ocean, and also red circle, meaning that ASEAN connectivity. This is a key. Let me repeat. ASEAN centrality is a keyword to understand this connectivity. It means that we have to have infrastructures and capacity building endeavors, and these network is critical. But Japan cannot do all these things alone. We invite the other ASEAN capacity building endeavors and like-minded partners. Sorry, let me go back. Australia and New Zealand as members, and India. And also the Djibouti, and these will be a core for the next connectivity. Okay, and I would like to invite you to do some unique challenge that you will see the Japanese map upside down. And this is the first trial to do some gaming and also see from the other angle. Okay, well, let me go back just a little bit. Okay, Japan's map, original for in common sense, the Japanese map is like this, and the Tokyo is in the center, and in the Hokkaido is quite close to the Russia, and we still have so-called Northern Territory issues with the Russia, and down south we have Okinawa, and I will talk it later. But please do remember that Okinawa was under occupation until 1972. That means quarter century later than Japanese homeland had the sovereignty back. So, sorry, 20 years. So meaning that the Okinawa is a bit different, the historical backgrounds from the mainland. So this is what we see in the map. But I would like you to try some upside down Japanese map drawing. And so would you grab your pencil and or use a pen to describe and copy this Japanese map on your notebook or the paper. And you have 1 minute to do it. Please do it. And in 1 minute, I will have some water. Okay, so 1 minute. Please start. Fifty seconds. Okay. Thank you very much. Would you stop? Okay. Okay. Mhm. Oh, yeah. So let me make a comments. It is a challenge for our Japanese students to do it because we are so familiar with a normal Japanese map, but this is very different and may surprise and may some of you or some of the Japanese students may be upset because we think that Hokkaido in the north and Okinawa in the south and Tokyo in the center. But here you will see that okay, Okinawa is right here in the top on the top, and the Kyushu, and then Hiroshima, Nagasaki is right here. Then Tokyo is here in the center, and going down to Hokkaido. But this surprising map, upside Japanese map, upside down, will give you a the view from North Korea, or view from Beijing, or view from Vladivostok. So how they may see to Japan or Tokyo or Hiroshima, Nagasaki maybe a bit different from what we see. So this is a challenge for our common sense, but I do welcome, and I'm doing this kind of the trial for the student, including the army colonel or the captain level. And the thing is, okay, if you are sitting in the North Korean, okay, North Korean perspective, North Korea, the capital Pyongyang is right here in the center. Then very pretty much close to the 38th parallel, 30th parallel. Then very close to the Seoul, which is the capital of South Korea. But you see, North Korea is very small, very small country, and surrounded by okay, South Korea. Well, South Korea has a new president right now, and the new president elections, and but they are allied, okay, U.S. allies, and Japan. It used to be under occupations, and they used to be under the Okinawa was used at the U.S. And the de facto supporting the okay the Vietnam War or the and this area Kyushu area was frontline for supporting the Korean War. So seen from Pyongyang, okay, South Korea is allied to United States and used to have a tactical nuclear weapons, hundreds of more, and also still have the U.S. military bases very close to the 38th parallel, and also United Nations Forces Korea flag is used in South Korea and Japan. And please have a look at Japan. Okay, so Nagasaki is here, and Hiroshima is here, and you see, seen from North Korea, Japan is huge, much bigger than North Korea, and South Korea is allied to United States. Japan is allied to United States. Okinawa is very close to Senkaku, or Senkaku is part of the Okinawa, but very close to Taiwan, and very nicely located. And please have a look at the Hokkaido, and go down, and you see that the Russia is quite close. So seen from Pyongyang, who would be a best partners? China, apparent reason, and sharing the border with Russia. So this simple map will highlight the very natural connection with the Russia, Vladivostok for Pyongyang, and also many years of or century of cooperation using the roads and also the railway. So you may wonder why North Korea is coming to the US theater, but the reason is North Korea is looking for okay, partners, allies. And seen from Pyongyang, South Korea is huge and supported by and the US forces. And Japan is surrounding North Korea. So North Korea will test missiles across the Japanese territorial water or territorial airspaces or going down. So meaning that Japan may be containing North Korean activities seen from Pyongyang. Then who will be the partner and allied the friends? Russia. Obvious reason. Historically, Japan has the Korean intervened to the Korean the peninsula for many years. So if you have just a little bit different twist and perspective, then you may notice that the North Korea may have a very different understanding of our geography. Okay, let me go to the next slides. Okay, so I'd like to respond to my previous answer, questions, why we change the Indo-Pacific, the narrative, we change the narrative from Asia Pacific to Indo-Pacific, and using the 5BW1H. And when we change these terms and highlight it Indo-Pacific connectivity, meaning that we will support more to the what's happening in Europe. And because the number one question is when we changed. Number two question is where we will cover the area under the concept Indo-Pacific. And the third question is what kind of agenda, how we responded to this kind of Indo-Pacific challenges. Number four, who will be the partner and who will not be our partners. Number five, why we change the game or change the name, and how we can cooperate, how we can cooperate under the name of Indo-Pacific, not Indo-Pacific. Okay, let me start responding to these five questions. When we changed this narrative, quite recent, and especially we say historical change of international order. In this region, Soviet Union gone, 1991, the end of the Cold War, but please remember that China is the Communist Party led, and North Korea, DPRK, is the partners with the Beijing and Moscow for decades. And also, don't forget Vietnam. The Chinese, the PLA fought against the Vietnam. So their relation is very tense, but Vietnam is under communist rule, meaning that Korean War, Vietnam War fought and assisted by US, but the Communist Party did not perish. So remain in power in North Korea and Vietnam and China, meaning that communist grip in this region is much stronger than we expected. So the end of the Cold War did not mean the end of the communists. No, communist regime is quite solid and powerful. So we say strategic competition among China, Russia, and USA, and this may be the a decade or so we have this situation. But basic point is the end of the Cold War and the communist regime survived. And if you come to Tokyo, please have a look at the kind of public support to the in liberal idea of the government. And in Japan, Liberal Democratic Party, Conservative Party is quite in power for many decades, but we still have the support for liberal idea. And also, even during the Cold War, Japanese Communist Party was rather supported. And in this sense, support to the communist regime or idea was not very unpopular and had support. So, number one issue is the end of the Cold War was the starting point for the changing or the widening the narrative. Yep. And the global war terrorism or terrorist attack on the US changed the Japanese position in a historical manner. That is US-Japan alliance to fight against the global war on terror, meaning that Afghanistan and Iraq and Japan became a global partner with the United States in these years. And Japanese self-defense forces deployment became global, and not in Afghanistan, but supporting the refuel cooperations in the Indo-Pacific, plus the Iraq and South Sudan. Then we have strategic competition, global partnership, and who underlined the importance of the narrative of strategic competition. Mr. Trump, the administration of the President Trump highlighted the strategic competition among great powers, not only with against Russia, but also China. Then highlighted the importance of global partnership and including like-minded partners of the South Korea, Japan, Australia, and New Zealand. So in the Pacific Partnership, step by step, had a kind of supports in Japan and in the United States. And but the most important one, the last one, strategic competition on the rise. And it used to be focusing on China, but after 2022, Russia became a number one priority for NATO and also US as well. Okay, next question is where Japan new design or new narrative fits in. Used to be the Far East, okay, seen from Europe, seen from Ukraine, it is so far away, the Far East. So the Cold War was a kind of the structure fostered in the theater level, meaning that European theater and Asian theater rather separated. And the Asian Pacific region, was started a so-called multilateral institution building. Remember the ASEAN countries. And Japan's the position is, okay, ASEAN centrality and ASEAN 10 member, including Vietnam and Cambodia and Laos, used to be or now still under the communist rule or kind of neutral, the tilt. And but Japan supported ASEAN country, ASEAN 10. Simply put, the unity of ASEAN will be a foundation for peace and stability of the South China Sea and East China Sea. So this was and is the focal point. Then came Indo-Pacific. Then what kind of agenda would be key for Japan's Indo-Pacific connectivity? And Japan's independence and autonomy, that's a quite unique saying in history, but Japan was under occupation, 1945 to 1952, 7 years. and then became an autonomous country during Korean War. Please do remember that the Korean War, 3 years war, 1950 to 53, and Japan became allied to the United States. And you may wonder why Japan chose the US as an alliance partner. We had the Hiroshima Nagasaki nuclear bombing, and also we attacked the Pearl Harbor. So that means we were enemy states. We used to be the enemy, and we were under the very different rule, totalitarian or democracy, but we became allied after Hiroshima Nagasaki only within 7 years. And meaning that Korean War was a kind of the big change in our relationship. And we are the ally to United States in 1951 and 2 and became autonomous. And the ally to 51 and autonomous 1 year later. So it took only a couple of years to get that. So this is a historical change. And economic development in Japan as number one became one of the narrative in 1970s and 80s, just like a Chinese peaceful rise a decade ago. And Japan then became a promoter of the multilateral the relationship and cooperations thanks to the good economy. And Japan could be a model for cooperations and regional partnership. So what we found, this is Japan's so-called soft power. So Japan would like to be a kind of the model for cooperation and a kind of a peaceful country. Then Japan promoted the idea of human security. And this was highlighted during the 1990s, still now. That means about 20, 30 years of cooperation and also quite unique understanding. Now it is a part of United Nations narrative and also a responsibility to protect our 2P concept. Not the same, may not be the same, but have a huge similarity. That is the number one priority would be local country, local governments. Then current the issue and challenge is capacity building and peacekeeping training and humanitarian assistance, disaster management, cooperation, not the competitions. So ASEAN centrality is a key, and Japan will not be too kind of, not to be too offensive, not to be too aggressive, but we will listen to the demands of the ASEAN country or other partners. We believe that that will be the foundation of the Japan's kind of multilateral approaches. Then free and open Indo-Pacific connectivity fits nicely to these kind of historical narrative. So a shift from Asian Pacific to Indo-Pacific fits nicely to this our strategic change. Then who will be our partner in the Pacific and the allies and partners? First, back in 1950s and 60s, U.S. alliance was the only kind of tool. Second, U.S.-led alliance in the Indo-Pacific, especially after the end of the Cold War, 1990s and then. And we said have unspoken U.S. alliance system and centered around the Australia, New Zealand, South Korea, and Philippines. But let me highlight the historical kind of legacy, or historical fact that the Southeast Asian Treaty Organization, named after NATO, okay? Southeast Asian Treaty Organizations is gone, abandoned. And after the Vietnam War, so meaning that alliance in the Indo-Pacific or Asia-Pacific can change, and the US will be in that position to decide which alliance is good, which will abolished. And let me repeat the same line that the Republic of China, Taiwan, used to be allied, became allied after the Korean War, after the treaty after the ceasefire of the Korean War in 1953. Then Taiwan became the allied partner with the United States, and that may have a policy implication for Ukraine, because during the ongoing war, U.S. will not decide to a country which will have a direct impact on the war. So Japan became the kind of allied country during the Korean War due to the fact that U.S. can use a military bases in Yokosuka or in Tokyo or in Okinawa or Ryukyu for the Korean War. And in that sense, U.S. can pick and choose the allied partners and also military facilitations during the ongoing war. But please do remember that this kind of hub and spoke system started from the Japan, 1951, and South Korea, 53, and also the Republic of China or Taiwan, 54, and Seattle, 55, all Cold War alliances. No new alliances is formed. So that means the expansion or enlargement of the alliance is not a totally new phenomenon. But if you look at the Far East theater, the Korean War is the origin of the alliances led by United States. Then you may remember the map seen from Pyongyang was seen from Beijing, that the alliance may be containing North Korea, and also China fought against United Nations Forces Korea. In this sense, alliance in the Far East is the tool for US to maintain the order. But back in 1950s, it was a kind of tool for fighting against North Korea and Republic of the People Republic of China, PRC Beijing, and Soviet Moscow supported North Korea and PRC back in 1951 to 3. So in this sense, Cold War in the Far East or in our region is not totally over. Communist regime is very powerful, and ties with the between Pyongyang and Moscow is back, and alliance may be reviewed and renewed. So in this sense, hub and spoke system back in 1950s, led by United States, remained the same, or almost the same, but we have new interpretations in these regions. And that may be the one of the burning issues for us all. Then ASEAN. So ASEAN now included Vietnam. The Vietnam fought against the United States 1965 to 75, 10 years. But now Vietnam is a partner with the United States, and Vietnam is a member of ASEAN. In that sense, Cold War is over in Southeast Asia, and but they don't have alliances. So huge differences in the Far East between the Far East and Southeast Asia. And Japan is happy to be a member of the G7 and the economic partners. And please remember that used to be a G8 for a while, and Russia as a partner, but now it's gone. So G7, we are going back to the basics, and Russia out, not be invited to the conferences and summit meeting. So we focus in economic partnership plus political partnership. And Quad, which is Australia and India, Japan, and United States. This is like-minded partners. And we say global partners, including NATO, European Union, and other countries. Then the last, the W, why we change the game or change the name? Well, simply put, the rise of great power competition, and which is very clear in the eyes of the policymaker in Tokyo. Japan supported liberal international order and used to be a very powerful tool to do that. And we keep on saying that, okay, we cannot tolerate any kind of changing status quo by force or coercion. Let me repeat that, well, the changing the status quo by force or by coercion cannot be tolerated. So based upon the liberal international order idea, it means that what matters is the values and also like-mindedness and international norms shared among partners. And East China Sea and South China Sea cannot be separated. It is Indo-Pacific maritime connectivity. So it means that we have to care about Vietnam, and Singapore, and the Philippines, and the Okinawa or Japan connectivity. Okay, so let me repeat it. Prevent changing the status quo by force or by coercion. This is a kind of buzzword in this capital, meaning that we work with the other peace-loving and like-minded countries. We will never name any specific country's name, no. But this is a message, clear message that, okay, no swift victory in Ukraine, the no swift change of the borders. And for that reason, we strongly support the Ukraine resilience and also our ties with the like-minded countries and partners is very strong. Then last question is how Japan will support this kind of Indo-Pacific connectivity. And I will stop with this slide. And we say in the Indian Ocean and Pacific Ocean connectivity. So Japan's security posture is mainly ideal based upon common idea and norms. But in fact, we have maritime domain, and that means Black Sea regions, and also, okay, Middle East and Indian Ocean, meaning that NATO, European Union, and the United Nations activities, ASEAN's, and also United States and Australia, New Zealand's, these partnership and cooperation should be maintained under the name of connectivity. So we should not be separated. But we have to think about the unthinkable, just like 2022. Unfortunate scenario may be that Japan must prepare the North Korea, China, Russia connectivity. And it may be the reality, unfortunately. Why? Because technology and also economic and financial network. And we have a drone, or we have a space, and we have magnetics, which can be peaceful and offensive at the same time. And also, we must think about the multi-domain operation. That means we have Army, Navy, Air Force. This is the classical one. This is based upon geography, used to be. But now we have a cyber attack from everywhere. So Hannah and myself attended the Wilton Park conference, and we talked a lot about the future of the warfare. And our conclusion is that everywhere is battlefields, meaning that cyber attack can happen everywhere. And drone can be defensive and offensive. And it can hit the long range targets, meaning that we have to think about the space, cyber, and electronic things together, meaning that although geographically we were separated, the Ukraine and Japan is not neighbor, but when we think about the global security challenges, we are neighbor, and we are facing global challenges. And living with nuclear weapons and sharing the nuclear mission, not capability for Japan, is reality. Used to be nuclear alliance or nuclear escalation or nuclear deterrence was a taboo in Tokyo. But now we have to think about the North Koreans de facto allied to Russia, and they are having a strategic partners in every aspect, actually fighting together and supporting together. Plus, China provides a non-military support to Russia, financially, technologically, and that means global South may be a target for Beijing, Moscow, and Pyongyang possibly. Then what matter United Nations and General Assembly, Security Council, and used to be during the Cold War, United Nations did not work as a security institutions. After the end of the Cold War, we have PKOs. Now we face the strategic competition. It means that it is not simple one. So it is a very good opportunity for us to think about the future. Thank you very much for your attention. And I'd like to have your question and comment. Feel free. Okay.
Thank you, Tom, for this wonderful presentation. There was that much information. And I'm here just to say thank you, giving you in the hands of you and our participants now. As usually, the rules are simple. You are raising your hands with the Zoom button, and be ready to ask wherever you are interested within this region. Well, you are thinking about who will be the first to ask, Tom. One small question over here. Japan is witnessing tremendous changes in its foreign policy and security strategy because of the Russian-Ukrainian war. Everything what we learned about Japanese fundamentals after the Second World War is shaking now. Foresight, how potentially possible or not that Japan will change the constitution and to have the armed forces and forget about the 80 years of their demilitarized.
Okay. Connection is not perfect, and well, that's the reality. And let me repeat your questions. That well, this is a year, the 80 years after the victory over Germany and the victory over Japan. And the United Nations was formed on that year, in that year. And but situation is totally different, and partners are different. So let me respond to you question about the change of the constitutions of Japan. And okay, well, I'm very happy to speak from academic freedom perspective. That used to be that I was a government employee, so that was a very tough questions. But to me, okay, let me compare with the Germany. And Germany experienced the changing of not the constitutions, but the basic law about the Federal Republic of Germany more than 50 times. And meaning that their basic law is much easier to change. Simply put, the constitution or the basic law was prepared in 1948 after the Berlin blockade. The Cold War, the Soviet Union and the US, it was a reality. Then West Germany, or the Republic of Germany, Federal Republic of Germany, was preparing for being the member of NATO. So meaning that the so-called German basic law, de facto constitutions, was designed for the membership of the multilateral alliance like NATO. But Japanese constitutions, 1946 and 46 and 7, drafted 46 and adopted 47, was prepared before the start of the Cold War. The Cold War started in Europe in 1947, and in Asia 49 with the Beijing, the People's Republic of China became a communist-led country in 1949 October the 1st. So meaning that the Japanese constitutions was prepared with the spirit of the Japan being the enemy state and not be a possible member of the alliance network in this region. But the West Germany split between East and West. Then in 1948 and 48 and 9, the situation is totally different from 1946. So simply 1 year or 2 year differences between Germany and Japan was a big difference from a constitutional perspective. Then, how about the Japanese constitutional change? Zero. Because we need 2/3 majority and also the public support, plebiscite. And meaning that it is totally impossible with getting done. Totally impossible, or almost impossible. Then our approach is that pragmatic. So under the name of the Article 9, no Army, Navy, and Air Force, and Army and Navy in name, but we have a self-defense forces established in 1954, and now we will be equipped with the long-range missiles under the name of the counteroffensive deterrence, meaning that de facto intra-war deterrence. So, of course, name itself is very important. And if we can successfully get the public support plus the 2/3 majority in the both houses, that would be the success story for Japanese policymakers. But it's a bridge too far. I don't think we can be the supporter in a bridge too far. So we should be more pragmatic. That is, interpretation of the constitutions. and meaning that we have self-defense forces and we have a roles, missions, and capability defined by United States, Japan, security arrangement, security, the alliance, the meeting, and also summit meeting, and just like NATO strategic concept, then we can have an international, and at least we have the alliance approval about our maximum behavior or capability. And Japanese public don't support the offensive use of the military capability. And Japanese public is still against the offensive capability like tanks to the export to the tanks to the other countries. And this is very different from Germany. Germany, well, the Leopard spy exported to many countries and deployed in Afghanistan, used by the Canadian forces, and de facto the military offensive, military capability, and the operation in Afghanistan for many years. And we know that. But if Japan followed the same example of having Japanese tanks sold to other country and used in Afghanistan, well, public would be mad, and there will be the changes of government or changes of the leaders. So, meaning that Japan's deep-rooted pacifist tradition cannot be challenged, and it is not a good idea. Then, pragmatic one. Roles, let me repeat, roles, mission, and capabilities approaches led by Japan and the United States, and also NATO has one. So has a de facto the kind of limiting the targets of the Japanese military operations. Then everybody is happy to do that one. Of course, there are clear limitations as to the exports of the arms, the equipment, the overseas, but still, due to the defensive nature of our transfer of the defense equipment, especially to the Philippines and Australia, then this is supported by the public. So in this sense, changing the article itself will remain the kind of target for the LDP, which is within the principle of the LDP, the ruling governments, ruling parties. But in fact, we can do it without changing the constitution. Okay, thank you very much. And I'd like to, yes.
Thank you. We have the question. Anna, please.
Yeah, thank you very much for the lecture and your comments. It was very great explanation of the dynamic in your region. And I was wondering, how is Japan's view of Europe changing as a result of limited and somewhat inconsistent support for Ukraine in the context of war and economic sanctions on Russia and overall today's politics? And does Japan believe in the European Union as this, again, unity, political, economic, etc., in the future and now in the present? And also one last question is, how does Japan perceive the right turn within Europe, and what is being discussed within this problematic from the perspective of Japan, at least maybe within liberal communities?
Okay, thank you very much, Anna. And the first one is my view about the European Unions and also their own so-called strategic autonomy concept. And actually, last month, we have so many meetings with the EU delegation and also the European Union, the offices on the partners, and focusing on the common security and defense policy, CSDP. And they published for the first time the defense white paper. And the prioritized the items, including number one, the priority for EU defense white paper is ammunition. I was so surprised to see and listen. And so I asked a question from the number two of the CSDP, the office in Brussels. And what is the implication of the EU new focus on the defense white paper on ammunitions? And their explanation is quite clear that thinking about the unthinkable and what's happening in Europe is not traditional European Union the vision about the non-military cooperation alone, meaning that European Union is ready to work with NATO and think about the military readiness and provide ammunition or develop ammunitions. And they didn't name any specific country or operation, but obviously Ukraine. And also, beefing up with the countries and partners and members of European Union. So European strategic autonomy may be changing. And due to the fact that Russia's the big change since 2022. So military readiness became the number one priority for European Union common security and foreign policy. That's a big change. And that what will mean for Japan. Number one is that, budgets and preparedness and how we can maintain high level of, supports that will matter. And Japan cannot provide the ammunitions or the pay for defense equipment by the European Union countries or NATO countries, no. But when it comes to the so-called post-conflict reconstruction or ongoing crisis management, then what will be the core is that, protection of the infrastructure, repair, maintenance, training, and also provision of these kind of materials and transportations. These are feasible. In that sense, we will limit to the so-called non-military support to the European Union still, but has a huge impact on the support for the resilience and the maintaining of these network, which is critical. And the European Union, our dialogue with the European Union highlighted that the Chinese support Russia. Although military equipment provision is not, but so-called dual use one, and also explosive devices and repair. And also we now know that North Korea provides ammunition to Russia and fight with them. So it means that China and North Korea are clear partner for the Russian war efforts and military efforts. And Japan cannot stop it, but we agree with the European Union and NATO member that what they're doing is simply wrong. And then highlighted so-called connectivity and changing the status quo by force or coercions. These are against our principal policy. In that sense, having partners and support the resilience of the Ukraine system is our number one priority. And the EU share the same concept. In this sense, we are like-minded. And another kind of black swan situation is Mr. Trump. And Mr. Trump's approach is so different from the Joe Biden. And under Joe Biden, Japan became a member of IP4 along with Zelensky, that we would like to cooperate with the United States for the laws, mission capability sharing with NATO and Ukraine and European Union. But there would be a big question mark about the US position because US highlighted, okay, tariff war, a deal, and they don't care about the traditional network at all. So, of course, the friends and partners in the Ukraine know the reality, and would like to ask they know more about how you feel about the situations. But from Japanese and Tokyo perspective, okay, we have Black Swan situation, and Mr. Trump highlighted the kind of very short-sighted ones. But we must say that the long-term, mid-term goal must be the same, and we will keep pace about peace building and deny any kind of the offensive, the changing of status force. I think that will keep our ties together. Thank you. I'll stop and welcome the next question, please.
Thank you.
Tatiana.
はじめまして、ダニエルです。よろしくお願いいたします。Thank you so much for your lecture this late hour. I have two questions, and they're kind of related. So the first one is kind of in line with the recent election in South Korea. And I believe that during the previous administration, especially when Prime Minister Kishida was in office and the US administration, the relationship between the two countries was kind of warming up a little bit, and the dynamic was quite good. And I'm curious about maybe your opinion or perspectives on how that may change, or whether the recent election of an opposition candidate may affect this dynamic that has been said before. And the second question is related to the trilateral defense, in particular cooperation. And I understand that there have been a lot of points of when this cooperation has been kind of approved despite the kind of shaky policies of Trump administration regarding the economic setting. So I'm curious, are there any fears that there may be a cool down in this particular sphere of cooperation under the Trump administration? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. And South Korea, and also trilateral, meaning including Beijing, the Seoul, and Tokyo. Trilateral one. Okay, thank you. The first, my take is that, okay, as to the domestic politics, they have their own narrative and choice. And of course, what happened in current or the situations is that, well, it is disasters. And that means presidential level and public, the unrest, and also or legal terms, and not the strategic one, meaning that the domestic policy or public choice is a key. Because we are in a democracy, and public choice is a must, and we cannot stop it. So meaning that first one is that domestic politics has its own dynamics. But my take is that, okay, let me talk just a little bit the small thing, but my personal one, the former South Korean ambassador to Japan was my friends and my colleague in the university, and same year in the university. And he wrote a book about, he got a PhD from the university in Japan, and title is that South Korea Japan Defense Cooperations. So he's a real thinker and practitioner about these pragmatic cooperation between South Korea and Japan for many decades. And we have been contacting each other and having a kind of cooperative venture, like sharing the informations and situation awareness. And of course, there is a differences about the domestic kind of priority. But international cooperation was and is the number one priority for a defense sector and the foreign sector. But when it comes to domestic one, we have original other difficulty. So please be reassured that our partners in Seoul or in Beijing, Beijing may be a big challenge, but okay, first one, Seoul. Well, defense to defense, the cooperation is good, very good, because we have common kind of threat, North Korea, plus China. Well, China is as to when it comes to the foreign relationship, we have so many different kind of perspective actually. But when it comes to defense, South Korea-Japan relationship is very solid, very solid. But when it comes to implementing the agreed framework at the domestic sector, we have very big differences interpretation and interpretation and implementations. But we will never repeat the same mistake of fighting against back in 19th century and 20th century. So these are the dark side of our history, and we know that. And in that sense, we are in the same boats. Then Beijing and Seoul and Tokyo. Well, actually, I was one of the member who had a joint venture, joint research with China for decades or more. And Xi Jinping's leadership is quite unique. And before Xi Jinping came to power, we have a very kind of pragmatic cooperation, cooperating with the PKO and disaster management, and we have many channels. And also we agreed about the so-called crisis management and 3 layers, like a top tier and the theater level and peer-to-peer, meaning that the ship-to-ship cooperations. And it was working. And that mechanism is back in place right now. It's a positive sense. So we can share the sense of crisis management. But when it's come to domestic implementations, actually big differences due to the differences in political ideology, political leadership, and also level of the information openness. So to be frank, we should continue trilateral one. But South Korea Tokyo cooperation is much better than our partner or cooperation with Beijing. And we do want to invite Beijing partners in this regard. And we are looking for the possible cooperation like climate change and disaster management and PKO, but not that very rewarding actually. So we cannot be too optimistic about that, but I cannot be too pessimistic about that, say, neither. Thank you.
Thank you. We have the last question from Yana. And with this, we would be allowing our Japanese colleagues to finish. So brief questions.
Yeah, first of all, thank you very much for all the insights you shared with us. And I want to apologize that I can't turn on my camera due to the weak internet connection. So I've got 2 questions. I'm not sure if it's possible to answer them, but maybe you could quickly answer both. And the first is, how is the war in Ukraine currently framed within Japanese public discourse? And if these public narratives significantly influence like the scope of its support for Ukraine? And the second question is more related to security issues, is that like given that NATO is no longer seems as unified and stable as it did a few years ago, does Japan envision like alternative or complementary defense strategies, and particularly given like in light of potential regional threats that we have also discussed today? Thank you.
Okay, and Tatiana is raising your hands up, so I can invite her to make a question, please. And also, I may invite Japanese students if you have comments or responses from the student level. Okay, Tatiana, please.
Okay. Firstly, I want to thank you for your lecture, and secondly, I want give you a question. My question is: will Japan be able to act as a diplomatic mediator between the USA and Japan, and China? Sorry, and China in the event of an escalation of conflict? Thank you.
Thank you very much. And if possible, I'd like to invite a Japanese student to make a comment, share your impression about how the war in Ukraine or Russia-Ukraine war is reported in Japanese media and how the Japanese public will respond to it. And any volunteer, Ishikawa-san, Sato-san, Miyake-san, do you have any comments? And I will give you a couple of minutes about that. So I will make a comment about the questions. Then, well, please make a challenge and share your view about the war in Ukraine. Okay. Then let me first answer the second question about the unity of effort and how Japan can fit in the kind of in this situations. And you're right. It is pretty tough to maintain the unity of efforts. And also alliance and partners are facing the real challenge that Washington is looking to the more specific numbers and burden sharing, or kind of one-sided request, or kind of huge demands. And my take is that, well, actually, we have so many friends in the Pentagon and Foggy Bottom for very realistic about the outcome, future outcome, because they must have operations and also alliances. Of course, political leaders change and have a unique political agenda according to their political demand and positions. They're absolutely right. But deep in our relationship, geostrategic challenges and also huge the potential of working together. So the Trump administration's less than 1 year and 3 more years to go, but they will change. And the alliance managers are realistic and pragmatic. I believe that because the geography will remain. And I'm very happy to learn that you are coming to Tokyo or coming to Japan and see the reality that, well, we have to think about the multi-frontal one, not only about the US, but the threat or the risk is real. In that sense, the Japanese position of maintaining the position of the, frank the partner and try to listen to the request from other country. I think that would be the beauty of the Japanese diplomacy, not taking too much initiative, but not to be too reactive. So we will listen to the requests for other like-minded partner, like the Ukraine, and think about the future. Then Japan's position will be the facilitator. And mediator may be a bit too much for Japan because we can facilitate and combine the agenda and request the assistance for supports. And what matter would be the moral support or normative setting. And we say soft power of Japan. So everybody loved the Japanese manga or animations and this kind of the conflict things. Then Japan can be kind of not neutral, but not impartial, but we can facilitate. And in that sense, we want to be the front partner with all the country and listen to the demands. I think that with the beauty of the Japanese behavior. Okay, and then I'd like to invite the Japanese students, any volunteer? Well, Ishikawa-san, Sato-san. Okay.
Can I
Yes,
speak?
please.
すいません。所感で大丈夫ですか? Thank you. So, for me, like in Japan, so NHK is it the broadcast, still like reports the situation in Ukraine and the internet. But however, in the TV programs, well, they report the news about Ukraine when just something special things occurs, like the Mr. Zelensky moved or the Mr. Putin said something. So we Japanese know about the Ukraine and also Russia, but we maybe the most people don't understand why they're in such a situation. Yeah, I know, but like me and some university students are very interested in some the Ukraine problem and the Russian problem. So I think we need to know and understand each other because the Ukraine, Russian, and the problem between Ukraine and Russia can say that the same level crisis can be occurred in the Japan, like China or North Korea. So I think it's very, very important to know each other. Thank you.
Thank you very much. How about Ishikawa-san? Why not Chan? Yes, please.
In my perspective, when in 2022, when the fight began in Ukraine, I saw a lot of news reported in newspapers and TVs that telling the situation in Ukraine. But recently, still the negotiations to ceasefire is still being made. Compared to 2022, I think Japanese media I don't know how to explain. Comparatively, they less report regarding Ukraine. But I feel most of news reported Japan contain criticizing Russia. Of course, this is because Japan is in alliance to the US.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you very
that's
much.
all. Yeah,
Thank you very
sorry.
much. Thank you, and Miyake-san, please.
Thank you. In my opinion, in Japan, the media reports on the Ukraine war with strong criticism of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. However, I sometimes feel that both the people of Japan and the media are not fully aware that Japan is um, located right next to Russia, and that part of our own territory, northern territory, is effectively occupied by Russia. And I think this geographical and historical context is not only reflected in public discourse, even though it could deepen our understanding of the situation in Ukraine. And I believe that Japanese people should recognize that this war is not merely a distant observer, but also a stakeholder in this conflict, especially from the perspective of national defense and diplomacy.
Okay. Thank you very much. And last words. Okay. First and foremost, that thank you very much, Hannah, for having this very precious opportunity to share the urgencies about the communications, and also your delegation to Japan is very welcome. And Hannah gave us a talk about the Ukraine perspective about the ongoing war. And we have a video clip. And this is open to the university students, and not only for our university, but also ASEAN countries, some others. So that means your message are being sent, and good for gaining the degree and the units for the university. So this is a very serious one. And the open message is recorded and in a very serious manner. And this is open to the world. So in that sense, last year, thank you very much, Anna. And okay, please, we can praise the network. We learned a lot. And along with the Ellie, who is the Ukrainian student studying in Japan in our campus, and she was so impressed. So in that sense, we will continue this dialogue. And thank you very much for having us again.
Thank you very much for being with us. It is the great pleasure. And I promise that it is continuing, because Ukrainian Prism is coming this year again to Japan. So let's plan it for the late autumn. And I hope that we also will be able to start the dialogue for the young experts between Ukraine and Japan. And we'll have more productive discussions on this way as well. And personal thanks to you for being with us today.